one Simpsons episode so controversial that the show's own creator publicly disowned it. An episode that didn't just divide fans, it made them angry in a way that still hasn't fully settled down, even decades later. And the strangest part is that it wasn't controversial because it was offensive or dark. It was controversial because of what it did to a character everyone thought they understood. The Principal and the Pauper is Season 9, Episode 2, and it might be the single most debated creative decision in the show's entire run. To understand why this episode feels like a mistake, you need to understand what Principal Skinner meant to the show before it aired. By Season 9, Skinner had been a fixture of Springfield for 8 years. He was the uptight Vietnam veteran principal of Springfield Elementary, a man living with his overbearing mother, perpetually locked in a low-level war with Bart Simpson, quietly in love with Edna Krabappel. He was specific, he was consistent. Fans knew him. And then this episode aired, and suddenly none of that was true. The episode opens innocently enough. Springfield Elementary is celebrating Principal Skinner's 20th anniversary at the school.
Happy anniversary, son!
There's a party, there are speeches, there's cake. It's the kind of episode setup that promises a warm, character-focused story. Then a stranger walks through the door, a man named Sergeant Seymour Skinner. And he doesn't just walk in, he walks in and tells everyone in the room that he is the real Seymour Skinner.
I'm Skinner.
Seymour? Oh!
Mother! She's my mother!
The man Springfield has known for 20 years isn't Seymour Skinner at all. His real name is Armin Tamzarian.
My real name is Armin Tamzarian.
He was a street punk from Capital City who joined the army and served under a commanding officer named Sergeant Seymour Skinner. In Vietnam, the real Skinner was presumed dead. Armin, racked with guilt, traveled to Springfield to tell Skinner's mother what happened. But instead of doing that, he just became Skinner.
Yes, Mother, it's me.
You look different somehow. But you must be Seymour. Yes, you are Seymour.
He took his name, his identity, his life, and built a career out of it for 2 decades. On paper, this is a dramatic, potentially interesting premise. The idea of someone reinventing themselves out of guilt and grief has real emotional weight. Shows have built entire seasons around ideas like this. But The Simpsons has 11 minutes of story per segment and a town full of characters who need to react to this information. And the episode burns through the emotional fallout almost immediately. The real Skinner, played by Martin Sheen, is charming and likable. He reconnects with Agnes, who immediately prefers him over the man she raised as her son. He takes over the school. He starts dating Edna Krabappel, and Armin Tamzarian is sent packing, given a bus ticket out of Springfield. And that's basically it. The man who built Springfield Elementary into whatever it was for 20 years is just gone. But here's where the episode starts to fall apart. The town doesn't grieve this. They barely process it. Agnes abandons Armin without much hesitation. Edna moves on instantly. The students shrug. And then, almost immediately, everyone realizes they actually preferred the fake Skinner. The real one is too competent, too different, he doesn't fit. So Springfield does what Springfield always does. They find the most absurd solution possible. The episode ends with Judge Snyder legally declaring that Armin Tamzarian shall henceforth be known as Principal Skinner.
By authority of the city of Springfield, I hereby confer upon you the name of Seymour Skinner, as well as his past, present, future, and mother.
Banishing the real Skinner from town, and ordering that no one ever mention this again under penalty of torture. And everyone just accepts this. The credits roll, and Principal Skinner is back in his office like nothing happened. That ending is the thing fans have never forgiven. Not the twist itself, but how casually the show dismissed it. The judge's ruling is written as a joke, a satirical jab at how TV shows reset themselves after big moments. But the problem is that it doesn't read like satire in context. It reads like the writers panicking, like they went too far and needed a trapdoor, and the trapdoor they built was so obvious that it insulted the audience's intelligence. The strange details don't stop there. Agnes Skinner, whose relationship with Skinner had always been one of the show's most consistent dynamics, instantly bonds with the real Skinner as if 20 years of shared history meant nothing. The episode wants you to accept that Agnes would throw away her relationship with Armin, the man who dedicated his life to honoring her son's memory, in favor of a stranger she just met. Even by Simpsons logic, that's a stretch. And then there's the real Skinner himself. Martin Sheen does fine with the role, but the character is written with almost no complexity. He's likable, he's competent, and then he's gone. For an episode that hinges entirely on the emotional impact of this man's return, the show spends almost no time making you care about him. He's a plot device dressed as a character. There are theories about why this episode exists at all. One of the most common is that writer Ken Keeler, who later worked on Futurama, was deliberately deconstructing the show's status quo. The Simpsons had always been criticized for never changing, for resetting after every episode and pretending nothing happened. The Principal and the Pauper could be read as a direct commentary on that. The show rewrites a character's entire history, the town briefly reacts, and then a judge legally enforces the reset. It's the show making fun of itself for being a show that can never change. If that's the intent, it's clever, but clever and effective aren't the same thing. Even if Keeler was trying to satirize the reset button trope, the episode still required fans to watch a character they'd invested in for 8 years get retroactively hollowed out. The satire, if that's what it is, comes at a real cost, and the audience felt that cost even if they couldn't articulate exactly why. There's another interpretation that's more uncomfortable. The Principal and the Pauper might be the moment the show itself admitted it had run out of real stories to tell about its core characters. By season 9, The Simpsons had already produced some of its best work. The writers needed new angles, so they started reaching. And this episode is perhaps the most extreme version of that reach. If you've told every story there is to tell about Principal Skinner, the next move is to reveal that Principal Skinner isn't really Principal Skinner. The problem is that this approach treats the character as a puzzle to be solved, rather than a person to be understood. Skinner's appeal was never mysterious. He was a sad, funny, deeply human figure, caught between who he wanted to be and who life had made him. That's universal. You don't need to add Vietnam identity fraud to that. It was already enough. Matt Groening himself reportedly hated this episode. He's gone on record saying he found the premise insulting to the audience and to the character. That's a remarkable thing for a show's creator to say about his own production. It suggests the disagreement wasn't just fan noise, it was internal. The episode made it to air, but it didn't have the full support of the people who built the show. And yet, the episode exists. It aired. It became canon, even as the show almost immediately started ignoring it. In later episodes, Skinner is just Skinner again. The Armin Tamzarian revelation is referenced occasionally as a throwaway gag, but it's never treated as meaningful. The show chose to have it both ways. The twist happened, but it doesn't matter, which is arguably worse than never doing the twist at all. Because here's the real insight. The Principal and the Pauper isn't a mistake because the idea was bad. Identity, reinvention, the question of whether who you become matters more than who you were born as. Those themes are rich and worth exploring. The episode is a mistake because it explored them carelessly. It treated a well-established character like a blank slate, and then acted surprised when the audience pushed back. The Simpsons at its best was a show that understood its characters deeply enough to find new stories within their established natures. The Simpsons at its worst was a show that got bored with those established natures and tried to tear them down. The Principal and the Pauper sits firmly in that second category, and what makes it linger is that you can feel the gap between what the episode was trying to do and what it actually accomplished. There's a version of this premise done carefully over multiple episodes, with real emotional follow-through that could have been one of the best arcs the show ever produced. Instead, what aired was 11 minutes of identity crisis resolved by judicial decree. Principal Skinner is still in his office. His name is still Seymour Skinner. Agnes is still his mother. And somewhere on a bus out of Springfield, the real Seymour Skinner is heading to a town that doesn't want him, forgotten by a show that created him and then erased him before anyone got the chance to care. Some characters get written out, some get killed off, and some just get legally renamed and never mentioned again, which somehow feels like the loneliest ending of all.